Be'ez Hashem Parshas Shmini Tavshin Pei Hey. Part of a person's life is asking favors from people. Every person, in any given matzav, it could be a very talented person, it could be a person that has a lot of money, it doesn't make any difference. The Rebbeinu Shalom created the world in a mahalach that a person needs to come on to others and has to ask favors from people. Like any other part of a person's life, a person has to do it the right way, and the Chovos HaLevavos in middle of Perek Daled designates a part, a shtickl Chovos HaLevavos. How does a person ask favors and expectations when they ask the favors? What happens if you get a no? Sometimes you get a yes and the person just doesn't do it. After you got a yes, and what happens when the person does do the favor? What's supposed to be the right feeling about it? And a person is supposed to bemis do exercise. It's bemis a very important yesod, because we don't realize how many times a day it's negeya. Because usually when a person needs to come out to a favor, what happens is they don't chap that it's like something's happening right now. They also don't feel in the morning, okay, Hashem, today the 18 favors I'm going to ask from people, so they should help and should be Hishtadlus. Only, let's say they know they have to come up with 25,000 shekel because it's the 20th, but in the Chodesh. But if it's a regular day, then there's no plan to ask favors today. As we must learning, as we must davening, as we must parnasa. Favors is like, oh, grada, yeah, I had to borrow milk. It's something that takes place. So, the first part of the shir, let's discuss a little bit the musig of day-to-day situations, which we don't have to call it that, oh, that's also called asking a favor. Then we'll see that, it entails a lot of matzovim. The Chovos HaLevavos gives a name to this matzav, that when you are around people socially, you have people that are on top of you, you have people that are under you, like you're a balabos and you have workers that are working for you, or you're working for someone and you need to come on to the favors of the one that's on top. So that brings us to a chap, that every time a mother asks a favor from a child, could you please take out the garbage? That's called asking for a favor. Could you please put your things in the laundry? Yeah. As Balzen. It makes no difference in the whole sugi of bitachon. It makes zero difference. A person that's asking for favors, it could be in any matzav. You need to come out right now that person should do what they should do, what they could do. It doesn't make any difference. It's part of it. Now, of course, we could go over like the Seder Yom of a person. That means asking your child to please spill out the negelvasa or make their bed. Any of the above is called I'm busy asking favors. Even though I don't need it, it's for their tova. It makes no difference. You ask the bakosha and you have an expectation that it should get done. That's it. For something very small, something very simple. I hope, I would expect that it should be taken care of if I asked you to. But then, let's say the person's on the way to shul. Today there's less and less of it, but yes, he's standing and asking for a hitch. Depends what kind of circles, maybe what kind of economic level the person is. But you need to come out for a favor. You're waiting. Someone does stop. Someone doesn't stop. It's raining. It's not raining. It's cold. Now, asking a neighbor if they could babysit, man and woman, it's very simple. 1 hour. It's just mamish in and out. But akaponim, you need to ask if a simple zach. You have an older girl, if she could come babysit for an hour. You asking someone for a phone number. Do you remember? Do you have it by any chance? Do you have that person's phone number? Today, people don't necessarily ask their favors verbally. They could type it. They can send an email or whatever asking for a favor, but it's called asking for a favor, and start realizing, start seeing, observing that you're going to be finding it very, very often in your Seder Yom, and watch how you react inside, even if you didn't say anything. That's what's interesting. And we could be'emes become different types of people when we start chapping. I don't believe it. Tens of times a day, and it's not, when a person has a kas issue, anger, doesn't manage that, they know that they're messed up, they know they need help. You have a person, you're very normal, but inside, what's going through your mind? In the end, if it's the right thing, it's forming you in the right direction, it's helping you. If you're thinking something that's wrong, and it can be in many different ways, it's doing something which is not good for you, and when we're gonna realize there could be minimum 100 times a week, 100 times a week that you were thinking the wrong way, versus 100 times a week that you thought what you're supposed to. Try to think what's gonna happen after a few months to yourself, to the inside. It's interesting how the Chovos HaLevavos finds these little alleyways in our nefesh that we would never make a big deal about Azasot Inyan. Even, now this depends on the age. Before I say it, the Chovos HaLevavos says, Sai if you ask the favor, and then if someone asked you for the favor. It could be both sides. So now we're going to say this example. A couple, matter-of-factly, asking the mother or the shviger if they could take fish for Yontif, just for the first days. It's going to come out easier or cheaper. Balaz. They need just, if they could come by for supper. And all these little zachen, it makes a difference to mention such a example. You know why? Because the expectation level of people to all directions makes a very big difference in what goes through their mind, what goes through their insides, the nefesh, and what's happening. You should be realizing what you feel when you get a no, when the whole situation of the nefesh. Then you have a whole nother part of the sugi that we're learning, favors that we get involved in, and that is when someone, for an example, they're in the middle of ordering a kitchen, and it came the wrong color. Well, let's say it's something you can fix. It's something you fix. Anything you ordered and you want that it should be returned. You're calling up the company, you're calling up the person and saying, the Maisa, I needed the other one, I needed size, kach v'kach. It means you have to come on to people. It's like before, you said a favor doesn't only include if they have to do it or not. A favor means that you are being pointed, you're reaching out to a person, then you need his help now. Because if he's gonna hesitate, then what are you gonna do?
So he sent you the wrong item.
He said,
you want to return, but you need him.
You need him. You need him to be Mishatef Pula. You need him to be honest. You need him to be with you. Please be with me and understand me. And that the guy says, no, you didn't order, you did order. I'm not talking about the chelik of the Agmasnet. We're talking about specifically realize how many times a day, in how many different matzavim, you're busy with this issue. Now, of course, when a person needs halvo, that's simple. They need someone should lend the money, and if you didn't have on time and you asked him if you could please, you could give it to him after the first mitzvah you're gonna have. You need his favor to say it's no problem. After the first, it'll be good. Akaponim, you could take it weiter because there's many more. Many more examples. So now let's go weiter. Once we know that, we have to ask ourselves a question. The question is, why did Rebbe make it so complicated? if the Eibishter created a perfect world, but mamash a perfect world, mafli lasas, everything is exact. So what's the point that if I need a phone number, this hassle makes no sense? Why, if I need to put money into the bank, out of the bank, do I have to go through Gehenna? What's the pshat? Very, very important. Why? That part the Eibishter forgot to do. Sometimes people get so frustrated. It's a sick Medina here. It makes no sense. I need one paper. I'm busy with this for weeks. Now this, we didn't mention the whole sugi of a pakid. when you're working, with, how do you say pakid? A teller. Yeah, that means you're screaming at the person that has to call the one on top, that has to call the super. There's no one to talk to, B'chlal. And then, bureaucratia, this whole, now, why did the Rebbeinu Shalom create this little loophole here in the Bria? Everything's working out besides when I come out to favor some people. And that's a very simple answer. The answer is that when you're asking for a favor, the pshat is, it's a form of Hishtadlus. It's a type of Hishtadlus. Okay, so now search in Chovos HaLevavos, why did the Rebbeinu Shalom create a world that that you need to do Hishtadlus? Not different. It's a sniff in Hishtadlus. We'll soon see why is it unique, this type of Hishtadlus. But the pshat is, why did the Eibishter think that you have to peel the apple and slice it? Why did the Rebbeinu make that you have to cook the potato? That's Hishtadlus. It means it's not ready. You have to go do it. What's the musik of working for Parnasa? Why don't I have Parnasa? A Chayav Oif has Parnasa. The Hedges have it. I have to work and then wait for the first to get paid and then take the money. But the answer is, that is in Perek Gimel. The Chovos HaLevavos says, why did you create such an interesting world if everything is so perfect? The answer is, very simple answer. The Chovos HaLevavos sagt. Number one, to keep you out of being bored. Don't get offended, because if you're going to be bored, then you're going to be doing chatoim and avei. It's not going to be good. So it's good for a person to keep themselves busy. It sounds funny, but we discussed it in the previous shurim. And then they won't necessarily need to be busy with that. And the Rambam in V'hoyam Shemoy, the Rambam Hilchas Tshuva Perek Tes, says that one of the what's the pshat with many shurim, the schar for a person for doing what's right is that his behemoth is going to have grass, and the answer is the Eibush is going to make you free to be able to sit and learn and serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. Kum to us that this musig, that I don't have my needs met right now in front of me, I have to do something, reach out to be able to get it. That's a form of Hishtadlus. Now, what is the reason? Dr. Chovos HaLevavos, number one is that, is to keep you involved and not to become, when a person's bored, they're a guy where they look for taiva, whatever. The other yesod is to test you, to see if you are going to do it the right way. That means the Rebbeinu Shalom is giving you a type of avodas Hashem, and the Eibishter wants to see how are you doing it, in which mahalach are you going to do it. With the right asiyas, that means if you're going to do what's right, and number two is if you're going to be thinking what's right. It's both of them. Yet, is asking for favors a simple Hishtadlus or unique or different? Is there anything else to remember while I'm in this sugya? The answer is that it has a little difference. Anybody wants to try? With what is asking for a favor different than any other Hishtadlus? Which nakud is different? I'm reaching out to try to get what I need. One of the yesodis is that if you're asking for favor, then you are in a matziv of a little bit more mitzukah in the nefesh. Does any taich for the word mitzukah? Crisis. The nefesh of a person is like in need, in desperation, a drop more desperation. I feel I'm not giving the chanetze. That's it. I I feel that I wouldn't want to ask. Right? A person wouldn't want to.
The person actually wants to do by himself.
Yeah, I want to go to work. I want to earn my money. I don't want to ask for favors.
Little children always want to do myself.
Sure. Even little ones, depends who. You could see the difference of children at the age of 1. But when it comes to these things, who wants to get dressed themselves. But a person is a drop more feeling you're in the emda of a like a nitzrach. You're needy. You're needy in this matzav. That's the matzav of the person. Now, being that's the matzav that the person is, that you're in a needy matzav, you're in such a kind of situation. So what happens is that this could affect your mind, your whole halach yeilich, to the good and to the bad. It could help you. It could bring you further from the tachlis. Helping you means that a person remembers to call out to Rebbeinu Shalom, because they're naturally in a matzav of that they need to come on. They ask Rebbeinu Shalom, please help. Please help that the person should say yes. You know the person that's knocking on someone's door and hoping the guy is not going to open because they're so embarrassed. That means the guy shouldn't be upset at me. When you're asking for a favor and you're needy and you're in this matzav, the part of it that's helping you and making you closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom is the part that you're more nichna. You're starting off, the starting point of this versus a Hishtadlus of a different type of, let's say, working, is more nichna. What's the problem? That means the other hand. On the other hand, when a person is in this situation, they tend to rely on that person much more. You can't leave, you have to do it for me. If the person doesn't do it, behemet, it's such a rishis. It means you're totally falling into the trap of feeling that I have to trust that I'm relying on him and he could help me and so on, it's going to help me. The ganze Zach. So this is why a person is supposed to chap. And this is what the Chavez Avava says when he talks about asking favors. He says, when you're asking favors of people, remember a few klolim. Then you should remember that the Rebbeinu Shalom set it up this way just because the Eibush is testing you. The Eibush should give it to you. Everything can work out on themselves. Nobody needs to take out the garbage. Nobody has to do it. It should just dissolve. It's not a problem. Many things, water turns into vapor. When it's not a problem, it will be like pretty geschmack. No sanitation system. It just evaporates. Gendikt. Why they should make a tirche, ahina, any favor that I have to come out to someone is not meant to be that I have to come out to the favor, only to help me steig. Only for that purpose. If a person learns this umnus, this trade, that means the sensitive feelings that they're supposed to be realizing and fixing, and slowly feel what they're supposed to. That's another form of Klam Kabbalah of Al Torah, Mavirim and Older Eretz. They don't have to go on to favors. An older person, there's so many dugmos. That means the extent how much they could give zechanetze when they're older. We ask Atash Lechen Lei Zikna. We don't mean that we shouldn't have a Riches Yomim. It's a zach to remember, to think about. And all above. That means everything around is Zel B'Yisoid. The Yisoid of Dvorim is that if you're going to do it right, then there's no point that it should dafke be missing. So Bazoi, the Eibush could already give it to you. But if you're doing it wrong, and every time you're failing the test, then you're just back in that same galgal. It's interesting how take Lamoshel, one example. It's so brave, we don't chap how much it's part of life. Take Lamoshel, an example of people that they enjoy bedafka, saving themselves, so they're asking favors the whole time from people. They're wrong in that way. There's all kinds of matzovim. That means instead of getting their act together and talking to the bunch and whatever, they're lokui, faulty in this sugya that they are thinking a whole day to ask this. Some people have with money. That means they would enjoy, they got into the system of enjoying asking people for money, asking people that a person needs a nitzach, not any problem fakir, the only is part of the mitzvah, the only is doing part of the yichud. I'm saying sometimes a yochid could be in this matziv. So what happens is it's a galgal. Because you're doing a wrong, that's why you need to come to people the whole day. Because think about it. That's how Hishtadlus works. If you're doing a wrong, so the Eibishter can't take it away from you. So again, then they, in their mind, believe that Oibazoi, Zicher you have to ask people, because I've been working on my Kimchat Pesach from Shvat. Did I say this? I think I said this story here once. A man got up in public. In public, there was 40 people sitting there, and he said, "Let me tell you my story. I was working on Bitochen, and I decided that this year I'm not writing myself into the Kimchat Pesach, very, very famous in Eretz Yisrael." And his wife asked him, "What's the plan? What are you doing?" He said, "I'm good. The Eibishter wants it's gonna come to me." He was by a chasana and Chodesh Odo or what, and the famous person that makes this Kimchat Pesach sees him by the chasana and runs after him. Doesn't happen. What's your name? He says, "What's your name? What's with Kimchat Pesach?" He came home, he was like stunned. He said, "Wow, it says that kol haroidev mina parnosa roidev achrov," also like COVID, but I never thought that it means physically roidev. I saw the guy, he was running after me. He was chasing me after the chasana. Now, this is to explain to us about the sugya from favors. But doing being ois gehalten in the sugya of asking favors needs a lot of work. Because like in Bitochen, it's a big job to get it in the middle. In the middle means like this. Mitzad echad, I'm needy, okay. Step number 1, I need to come on to a favor. The first step is realizing that this is called a favor. It's a big job. Because, please pass the ketchup. He doesn't think that he has to come on to a favor. And like we mentioned earlier, it's not chlal involved in his mind. If you can start realizing, you can work on it. Once a person realizes that this is also called a favor, then it's magabil them, it limits them. Because then it's like, maybe it makes no sense I should ask him for a favor. Before a person thinks that's a favor, then they get used to having a lot of mashamsham. Do this, do that. But once they chap, I'm asking favors, especially if they count, it might be very not pleasant to see the number of how many favors I'm asking from people. Maybe I should get up and make myself a coffee. This idea. Number 2, after realizing and seeing, then a person says, okay, this is a favor that I need. I have to do it. Now let me do it right. It means you could, Lamaisa, delete some of them by just doing it. By just taking care of it, or being mavata. Sometimes it's a comfort that if I have to ask somebody else for a favor to do it, maybe it's good. Maybe it should come from the right place, not from Atzlas. It should come to a place, I don't want to use people, abuse them. But after that whole shlav, and normal zach, a person needs a phone number, you need a favor, or a person needs to be mechanech. He's not asking for a favor. It's good for the child to learn to have some achrayas. And now we continue on, and we go to the yesoids. Okay, I need to come on. So to who do I need to come on to? The Rebbeinu Shalom knows that I need this. And they wish to set it up, designed it in a way that I should go through people right now, because that's what makes sense. Sometimes a person could skip that. By that shlav, he could make a stop and say, you know something, maybe I should just ask the Rebbeinu Shalom and that's it. But it gets tricky because many times this is the normal Hishtadlus. Normal Hishtadlus is, imagine a child who wants to cross the street. And the mother said, you need to ask an adult to please cross you the street. So you need to ask a person. Some children are embarrassed, so they wait there until a good guy comes and he says, they need someone. So in life it's also like that. But in life, I'll tell you, most favors you're not waiting at the corner. So a person should come ask you, maybe you need a favor. So that's why you usually have to, it depends on the madrega of the person. But a normal person, a normal madrega, should ask for the favor. Then comes the chelik, and that's what's so important. That they have to work before they ask the favor to have no expectations. Big job. That means you're not done with if the guy said no. You have to know, look at Chila, that's how it goes. That's one of the biggest klalim l'moshel of fundraisers. The biggest. You cannot be a fundraiser. A successful fundraiser means that you are masliach for years and years. You should get burnt out because it's emotional work. It's emotional. To run these types of relationships and ups and downs, but one of the factors, the biggest factors in fundraising is, I'm not going to get now scratched up. He says he can't, he doesn't pick up the phone. You go weiter. That means you have in back of your mind, yo nish. It's of course also chachmas chaim, practical, besides bitochen, but it's also bitochen. Why is it also bitochen? Because I need it from the Rebbeinu Shalom. I don't need him. I respect him gewaldig, but my favor is bechlal not totally if he's going to do it, if he's not going to do it. Even when it sounds like, when it looks like that he's the only guy that could help me. There isn't anybody. I tried. I'm coming from there already. There's one person left that could do me this favor, and I beg you, please do me this favor. It's with Rebbeinu Shalom. Now, one of the reasons why it's so complicated is because, here we meet again, Bechira, Emunah Bitochen, when you're working with a Baal Bechira. It's very, very tough. Not easy at all. Because you're watching the person's facial expression. The person is also telling you, sometimes with their mood or whatever, that you should be embarrassed that you asked me a favor. And then they give you a whole musa shmuz. And it's like, Bola lamed v'nim tzalomat. It means, it's always the hardest. When you ask a favor from someone, children have it all the time. They I should ask, I shouldn't ask. I should ask, I shouldn't ask. That's why children are so fragile. They're vulnerable. They come, they ask, and instead of, they knew I might get a no, but they figured it pays to take the risk. But then instead of getting the no, it was like, ubi impokti pokariti. That means, I taka wanted to tell you the last night, we are very scared of that. We're very, very scared. Big adults, even strong people, we're very, very vulnerable when it comes to that matziv. That's why a lot of people think 10 times before they ask a favor. Sure, those are the normal people. The other ones that don't think, they irritate sometimes. But the people that think 10 times is because they're thinking, what's the guy's matziv? Does it make sense to ask the favor? Maybe he can't. Maybe the Pinchas ben Yor, the Gemara sagt in Chulen, he didn't want to have a no from, because yesh loy ve'ein roitze, ein loy ve'roitze. That means there are people that are giving and they really can't give. Then there are people that are giving and they really don't want to give. So he didn't want to ask for favors. Gemara Chulen davov. So you're working with Bala Bechina, you have to be, I'm asking to the one, Pinchas ben Yor's cheshbon was if he's doing what's right. We have to not get scratched when we know. So he said no. And all that you saw it. Then remind yourself beforehand that maybe it's not good for me. Maybe if that person says no, it's tamatova. Prepare yourself emotionally before asking the favor that you saw it. It could be in so many ways. The fact that person is saying no, that it's the best tova for me. It can be so many ways. One example, if I'm going to take the favor from him, it's going to cost me a pretty penny. They say the cheapest form of payment is with money. If you didn't pay with money for it, you're going to be paying with ribbis. That means you're still remembering 2 years later. Get over it, done. I paid you. Take a tip and but there's so many other ways why it's good for me. Many times. It's like, what's when a person is not healthy? Then now it's not supposed to be eating sugar. And the person says, pass me the sugar. And the guy, the Maisa, didn't give it, not because he didn't mean anything, he just didn't hear. This concept, you're asking for something that's not good for you. You don't know. It's like anything. When you're asking for a broker, the broker's not picking up the phone, and you want to finish this deal is not good. It's a ness he didn't do you the favor. It's a ness that it fell through. It means that every time, it's like any other thing in Bitochen, but remember, this Yesoy, that guy is not being helpful. He's I don't know, every time I ask him for a favor, I don't know, he's just not, it's a tova many times. Now when a person prepares themselves, the Chavis Avova sagt, the next shlav is that you're supposed to know that it's going to Shmit has nothing to do. It's not easy. This, like we said, is called emuna when you're working with a Baal Bechina and it feels like the most that it's that person deciding not to do it and he's bad. But it's not true. It's the Rebbeinu Shlem. And that person is bad. It could be, but it has no shaykhs with me. The fact that I didn't have my needs met is something else. And this is where it gets so tricky when a person is trying to be mechanech his children by telling them to help. Which we are supposed to be doing. But it's tricky. It's very, very tricky. Because the child didn't help. The child didn't come, came late, went early, did 5 minutes and then is gone. And all above. Everything. That's the waste. It's two separate parts. Now you feel you should give that child peace of mind. Why? Because, what do you mean? Because the kid's supposed to get married. They're gonna have to learn how to do this. It makes no sense. You have to have achrayas. Yeah, but Yolam is upset because the kitchen didn't get clean. So there's two separate sachen that are happening right now. The gamri two separate sachen. One is that you're missing your need. The other is that there's a tzorech of being mechanech that child. Now I'm not talking about if the person is in kas, even if the parent is not in kas. That's really a darga. Hard to meet. But let's say the parent is upset. But lemaisa, they are upset inside. Even if they're not showing it, they're taking the child in a room with a smile, they're saying it. Well, with a smile, calm. You're mixing together zwei Sachen. There's one Yesoid, they're not supposed to show kas, do it calmly, beautiful. Person that's up to there, take my hat off. It's hard to get there. But we're now learning it, so we're trying to understand that. Really, even if it's calm, what does it have to do with the fact that my needs were met? That's usually that's the engine behind the bikoret. Why are we only busy being mechanech adults to say it with a smile? Ich verstehe favos, because we're up to that level, and doing it with kas does more harm. But let's understand when we're learning the sugya that's something else. It's two different zachen. Somebody else did it. Baruch Hashem was basheret, it's done. Now you could go be mechanech the child. A day later, a week later better. And let's talk about it. Let's try to fix it. Let's see what we could do. Let's realize it. But if the engine behind the manoa, the need, the tzorech to be megiv, to react, is because I didn't have my favor wasn't done, that has nothing to do with that child. That has nothing to do with that child. I'm sorry. has nothing to do with that child. Usually we don't go all the way there. We don't go all the way there. Because we're not machalik it. That it's two separate zachen, that guy didn't do it and that's why. No, the fact that I'm missing something has nothing to do with them. And at the same time, the child needs chinuch. The child is supposed to get a muscle shmuz, let's say. And a chanami. It's famous, it's mind-boggling. Because imagine if a person would work like that, then they would see a different world. We would see a different world. And automatically, the upsetness, being upset about our children, it would look so different. The children are still going to be making so many mistakes, and we're still going to be human, and people are going to be going through their journeys, the parents and the children. No, that's going to stay. Because that's the Seder Abriya. It has to be choshech and then or, and people have to make mistakes. This kafshe de Rachmon is zicher, because all of us are here, we're on a journey. That's going to stay. But we're going to be on a different journey. Not the same. That means, what's the difference if a person is on how do they call these skates? A board, and there's wheels on a skateboard, yeah? What's the difference if a guy is holding onto a skate when he's holding onto the back of a car? Like that, and he's going, or a person is driving. He's driving a very comfortable car. He's driving. The difference is, the guy that's driving is enjoying themselves because he's running the show, because it's my journey. The guy that's holding off in the back has no idea if there's a sharp turn. He's now going on that guy's journey. One of the biggest pain of this, it can be parents and children, but it's in different areas as well, is that people are living Yenem's journey. And that's why it's so hard. That's why it's so hard. You're trying to sing a song that you don't know. You're going along and you're getting stuck every second. It's not your journey, it's their journey. And my journey is something else. That means in the same situation that happened, Zel B'zach, the parent is now missing kach v'kach. That's between Bein Olav and Koinoi. They fix what they need, they get what they need. That's it. And it goes so deep that it goes into when the parents' need is for something emotional, not for something physical, b'chlal. And start understanding. The parents needed the child to comply. I needed it for to feel safe. That gave me security. Or different, there's a lot of different words. Not only different words, different people that it's giving them something else. And now, I'm missing it. So let me talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Talk to the Eibishter. Then I once heard a sentence of a smart person. He told me, every person is born with a basic ta'ut psisit, a basic mistake, a shorejig mistake you're born with. I'm only worth if, and then that word is a fill-in. It means, if I'm unique, that's one type of person. The person is if I'm a Muslim. The different type of person is if I have a money. If I have good kids, a ganze Sach. The mistake is not in the fill-in. The mistake is in the word before that. It's not emes. It's not emes. Even if a person made the biggest mistakes, the erech is not totally that they didn't make mistakes. I'm not totally in that. We got to there, we ran into this alleyway pashut because we were discussing the musig, that your journey to fix is not happening because of them. I'm missing something, I'm supposed to be getting it from above. So what should I do about it? Tefillah and tshuva, but tshuva with someone else, someone should help you. You should get this from somewhere else. You could get what you need from somewhere else. It's always going to be like that. You could always get your need, not dafka from this person. And then, all of a sudden you're not upset at that person. You're not upset at that person, it helps. It helps not only, in many different areas. So it's the beginning of a big, big job. So this is the first year about favors. They wish to help, and we should be doing it a bit better. We should start opening our eyes. Hishtadlus.